that's when we repeated a number, an answer, right? Right? So I'll just to make the change and then run the code.
So we're supposed to.
If B is
We just changing the value of B.
no,
We're changing our while condition.
Oh.
more. While B
Running?
is less
Yeah,
than
running.
one.
So we should be saying while B is less than or equal to
A.
A. And when you run it, everybody is able to realize.
It goes up to the square.
Mine went up to 10 by 6.
Yes. Can confirm that they don't see any answer repeated.
No, wait, yeah.
Well,
No.
I tell you 1 times 1, 2 times 2 times 2.
nice.
3 times 2.
Okay, so let's move forward.
Like,
So it's still going on.
It's still going on?
wow. No, I can see how far.
Both of them.
Let me check to see how far.
Your indentations, yeah, not exact.
Like it's not
Okay, anyways, let's pay attention. So that's the challenge that we just did, the timetable without repetition. We're going to move on to lists. So far all variables and expressions we've seen only represent a single value. Be it a single integer, a single float, or a single string. Lists allow us to have a variable which contains several values rather than just one. We create a list in Python using square brackets and listing out values in those square brackets, separating them by commas. We can then do a lot of computations with these lists. So let's take a look at an example. So I created a list of numbers, 7, 5, minus 1, and then I printed out numbers. I created a list of messages, the strings of hello, the string of goodbye, and I printed out messages. And I printed out, I created a variable of scores and made it a list of minus 3.4, 2.5, 0.1, and I printed out scores. So what do you think my output is going to look like?
going to print the numbers, then you're going to print the message.
So you're going to print out my list. So we realize that my list is 7, 5, minus 1.
Right.
My list is hello, goodbye. So here we created 3 lists. The first one is called numbers and contains 3 numbers. We then printed out the list. We then print out the list, and as seen the output, the entire list is printed out. The second list is called messages and contains 2 strings. The third list is called scores and contains 3 floats. Everybody with me? So let's create another set of lists. We have list 1 equals just a value of 4 inside of our list. We have list 2 is the empty set, well, the empty list. List 3 is 3 minus 1.2 and the string hello. We're going to create a variable and say x is equal to 5. Then we're going to create list 4 and say list 4 is equal to x divided by 3, and the string of x. We're going to change x to a string. So we're going to print out these lists. What do you think our output is going to look like?
4, then an empty set,
Then
3,
No, 5 because
yeah.
25 is changing.
Okay, so this example shows that a list can contain a single element or even no elements at all, called an empty list. You can also create different type. You can also put different type of values in your list as seen as list 3, but this is usually not recommended. So in list 3, you see we have an integer, we have a float, and we have a string. You can put various data types into your list, but generally that's not recommended. We want you to put one type of data type in. any specific list. Just a rule of thumb. You can also put variables and expressions in the list as seen in list 4. So x is a variable. So as you place to 5, x divided by 3 is an expression, and we were able to calculate it, and we saw that at the bottom here. You can also put lists inside of lists, which is not shown in this example. So you could put one list inside of another list, and so on and so forth. So we can also perform some operations on lists. So let's say if we have list 1 is equal to 5, 8, 2, list 2 is equal to 4 and 1, and then we combine list 1 and list 2 to create our variable list 2. So what do you think list 2 is going to look like if we printed it out?
List 1 plus list 2.
So yeah, what does it look like? What's our output?
List 1. Everything in list 1 and everything in list 2.
Yeah, so if we look at the bottom here, this is what our output will look like.
Right.
So I could also use a function called len. So if I print out len list 1, my output is 3. So what do you think the len function does?
Repeating the amount of numbers in the list.
Yes, it prints out an amount of elements in our list. So in list 1 we had 1, 2, 3 elements. So it printed out the number 3. Everybody okay with that? Is she following with us? With us?
I just can't see the board.
Okay, cool. Okay, so now for list 4, we said list 4 equals the string of 1 and 7, not a string, the list of 1 and 7 star 3. Now, when we use the star function, it basically repeats our list as many times as the number we started by. So if we say 1, 7, star 3, we'll be repeating the 1 and 7 3 times. So as we see here, 1, 2, 3, we have 1, 7, 1, 7, 1, 7. So you repeated the 1, 7 3 times. If I were to use len list 4, what would my answer be?
1, 7, 3 times.
So
2?
Len list 4.
Yeah,
6.
6. We realize that there are 6 elements in my list 4, right? And if I have a list 5, I said my list 5 is the list of 1 and 5, and I say star 4. What would my output look like? 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, right?
Yeah.
Until we have 8 elements.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so strings, lists can also be indexed and sliced, similarly as we saw in strings. So let's say we have list 1 equals 1, 4, the string height minus 3, 2.0, and then we say we're printing out list 1 index 0. Well, what are we going to print out? 1. Everybody see we print out 1? If we say list 1 index minus 1, 2.0. Nice. So if I say list 1 index 2 to 4.
List 1, 2 to 4.
Yeah.
You start from the
Space.
second index to. And this one and 4.
So tell me what's my output.
Space.
I negative.
So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So we started here, we take our high. This is 3, we take our minus 3. And 4 is too much. We do 1 before the 4th index.
Alright.
So we take out high and 3. And our output will be high and 3, the list of high and 3.
So I
So if we print out list 1 and we're starting at the beginning, we're ending at the last element, and we're doing a step size of 2, what's my output?
1 high
1,
then
high,
2.0.
and then 2.0. Nice.
What for that one?
1.
I don't understand the last one.
So
You can't
we're starting from the first element, we're ending on the last element, and we're doing it in a step size of 2.
Or
You realize that we didn't have any first or second number within our colons.
That's
Just
what I
going
was
for
looking
the,
for. That's what I was
the last one.
Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody with me?
Mm-hmm.
You with me? What do you want me to go over?
So the last one.
The last one. Okay, so when we're indexing, the first number usually represents what in element we start at. But since we have no first number, that means we start at the beginning. The second element normally represents what element do we end at. But we have no second element in between our colons. So that means we go towards the end. We go to the last element in our list or in our string, whatever we're indexing. And then the third digit or our third integer represents the step size. So now we know we're moving at a step size of 2. So we're starting at the beginning. We're going to take our first element. We take out 1. So we're moving at a step size of 2. So 1, 2, we take out high. 1, 2, we take out 2. Cool. So let's say we create list 1. And we say list 1 equals 0, 7, minus 4. And I say x equals list 1 dot pop, open parentheses, close parentheses. And just to realize that we're learning a new function today. The dot pop function. So if I print out x, realize my output is minus 4, right?
Yeah.
Minus 4. And then if I were to print out list 1, my output is 0, 7, right? Can anybody try to guess or tell me what does the dot pop function do?
You're moving
Moving
it
the
from the list.
negatives.
Yes, you're moving it from the list. What does it remove from the list?
Negatives.
Negatives? Not
The
negatives.
one you see, the one you put
The last one.
The last one. So the dot pop function removes the last element in our list. And then, so it removes the last element in our list. It saves it in a variable. So we could print out this last element. And then our list is now just 0 and 7. You okay with that? So that's with another function. We have list 1 dot append. So we said list 1 dot append and we pass the number inside of our dot append function. So now when I printed out list 1, I saw that my list is now 0, 7 and 3.
So you add in the place of the pop. The 4. Add in one.
So our dot append function adds an element to the end of our list.
Right.
So maybe we wanted to add the element of a string of high, or we wanted to add an element of 1.2. But in this case, we added the element of 3 to the end of our list. So our list is 0, 7, and we added the element 3 to the end of our list for our dot append function. Everybody okay with that? Then you okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's say we have list 1 equals 1, 4, high, minus 3, and 2.0. Then I say I equals 0. And so I'm using a loop now. I'm saying while I is less than len list 1. What's the length of our list? 5. So we're saying while I is less than 5, right? We're going to print out list 1 I, our I index. Remember our index I starts at 0, and then we're adding 1 to I each time we loop. And we're printing out the index of I. So what do my output look like?
1, 4, I, 3.
Okay, so we realize with using this list and our counter and our while loop, we're able to list out each individual element in our list. So we made I equal to 0, then we said while I is less than the length of our list, so the length of our list is 5. So then we're going to print out list 1, 0, we're going to index 0. So when we index 0, we print out 1, then we add 1 to I, so I is now 1, we go back and we loop. So we say list 2, we print out list 1, 1, and we print out 4. Then we add 1 to our I again, I is now 2. We're going to print out list 1, 2. That's now I, so we print out I. Then and so on and so forth. So everybody, we understand? Okay, so we created our list of 5 elements, 1, 4, high, minus 3, 2.0. They will make I equal to 0. So then I said, while I is less than the length of our list, the length of our list is 5 elements. So I'm going to print out list 1 and I'm going to index I. I index I because I know I'm going to be changing the value of I each time, which will allow me to print out each individual element in my list. So at first I is 0, so we're going to be indexing list 1 0, and we're going to print out 1. Then we're going to print out list 1 index 1 because we added 1. So we're going to print out 4. Then we're going to loop again, we're going to add 1. So list 1 2, we're going to print out high, we're going to add 1. I don't think we just learning this, so we haven't done that yet. Okay, so let's move on. Move on to for each loops. Hold on, let me see if I have a worked example. Okay. Alright, let's move on. So for each loops are used as shortcuts to going through each element in a list. They remove the need of constantly using while loops and indices. And for each loops works by specifying some code that you want to run for each element in the list. So let's look at our for each loop. So let's say we created a list called nums. And we said nums equals 4, 7, 8, and minus 1. So we could use the for loop and say 4, and we create an element variable. This element variable is going to be equal to each element in our loop.
And doing that automatically
Yes. So our element variable is so there's 4 elements in our list. So we said 4 num in nums. So this means in our first iteration of the loop, we're going to make num equal to 4. In our second iteration of the loop, num will equal 7. Next iteration of the loop, num will equal 8. Next iteration, num will equal minus 1. So for this program, we're saying for num in nums, colon, we're printing out the number. So this allows us to print out each element of our list. So we'll take a look at our output. In the first iteration, num is equal to what? 4. So we print out 4. We run the loop again because there's more elements. Num is now equal to what?
7.
We run the loop again.
8.
We run the loop again.
For the first variable, you can pick any word.
Yes, the same is you're creating your own variable. Same way you could have used X, Y, Z, Tom, Harry. So let's create another list. We say nums equal 7.2, 4.1, minus 0.6, 2.8. Then I said for I in nums. So you realize I use a different element variable. So for I in nums, I'm going to say j equals I squared. Remember this operator, right?
And I equals one of them.
And then I'm going to say if j is greater than 1, I'm going to print out j. So tell me what's my output. Okay, so first iteration, we're going to say, what's I?
I is one of the first one.
So 7.2.
The first thing is always the first thing.
Yeah.
The first thing is it starts with the
Yeah, it started doing all the.
So 7.2 squared, that's greater than 1.
Yeah. Look at that.
So we print out 7.2 squared.
51.
So next iteration, I is what?
I is 4.1.
Okay, so 4.1 squared is greater than 1.
Yeah.
So we're going to print out j.
16.181.
Minus 0.6 squared, is that greater than 1? No. So we're not going to print this out. So 2.8 squared, is that greater than 1?
Yeah.
So we print
7.83 and
so on. So everybody with me? Everybody okay for now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we created another list of words, and we're going to say we have Alpha, we have Bravo, we have Charlie, and then we're creating an empty list called letters. What I want to do in this program, I want to capitalize each of the first letter or character in these words. So I'm going to say 4 wording words. So that means I'm going to create an element variable, and word is going to be equal to each of these words, right?
Captured alpha.
Everybody okay with that? Then I'm going to create a variable called letter. I'm going to say letter equals our element variable of word. Remember, our word is equal to each of these at different points in the loop, right? So word dot upper. So we'll need a new function, a dot upper function that changes a lowercase character into an uppercase character. So dot upper, open and close brackets, and we're going to index. What are we indexing? The first character in our string.
That's you.
Yes. So, and then we're going to add these letters. We're going to say letters. Remember we have a list. Letters. We're going to do a function with it. Dot append, and we're going to pass our variable of letter into this list. So we're going to add our letter. So remember, we just capitalize this letter, right? We capitalize this letter, we capitalize this letter, we capitalize this letter. So each time in the loop, we're going to append it to this list. So we're going to append our letter.
So we're putting it in the new list we made.
We're putting it into a new list. And then at the end, we're going to print our list of letters. So what will our list look like?
The one, the capital letters.
A, B, C, all capitalized, right?
Yeah.
A, B, C, all capitalized. So everyone, so we learned our dot upper function. We know how to use our for loop. We passed a variable into our dot append function, and then we put it out. So this example uses a list of strings, and we create a second list which contains the uppercase first letter of each word in the original list. We go through each word in the list of words, we convert it into uppercase, then get the first letter, and then add it to the new list of letters. Okay, so we're going to learn about another function, the range function. The range function is used in Python to create a list of numbers over a certain range. For example, range 7 will produce a list of numbers from 0 to 6. Notice that 7 itself is not included in the list, as the range function stops at the number before the argument, which is 7. Notice that the list it creates starts at 0 by default, because we just passed, so it starts at 0 and it ends at 6.
Just like the other thing.
Yeah, similar, but just a little different syntax. So, if you do not want to start at 0, you can specify what number to start at. For example, we could say range, open parentheses, 3, 8, close parentheses. We produce a list of numbers from 3 to 7. You agree?
Yes, sir.
So you can also specify a step size, and we could say range, open parentheses, 6, 20, 3, and what will be our range of numbers it creates?
What? Range of numbers?
Yeah. So we say we're using this function. We're saying range 6, 20, 3. What's the list of numbers that's going to be created?
7, 6, 7, 8, 9.
What's our step size? So 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and then we end because before 20. So everyone
So
okay
it's
with
just
that?
like
It's just like our slicing.
yeah.
Just to say, we're using the range function to create a list of numbers.
And we're using commas thing.
And we're using commas instead of colons. You okay with that?
Yeah.
So we notice we start at 6, we end before 20, and we have a step size of 3. So technically, the range does not create a real list, but it creates something called an iterator, which behaves like a list when it is used in a for each loop. Just some knowledge for you to know. So let's say for I in range 6, 20, step size of 2, print out I. What are we going to print out? What's our output? 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, or 20. Okay, so this code prints out all even numbers from 6 to 18. And we all see why. Okay. Okay, we're going to learn. So previously, every time we did a loop, we would have continued our loop regardless and went to the end of our loop. But sometimes you might want to break out of that loop early. And sometimes you may want to continue that loop before we reach the end of we want to go to the next iteration of a loop. So we're going to be learning how to use the break and continue functions. So I have this loop. I'm saying for I in range 5. So for the range of 0 to 4. I'm going to ask the user to enter a number. I'm going to say print enter a number. I'm going to say x equals some integer, whatever number we enter. If x divided by 2 equals 1, so if it's an odd number, I'm going to break this function. And I'm going to break this loop. So let's try running this program. So right now I equals 0. I'm asking you to enter a number. Enter a number. 10. Is 10 divisible by 2? Yes. So we're going to go through the loop again. So now I is equal to 1. I'm going to ask you to enter a number. 13? Okay. So now we're going to check. When 13 is divided by 2, get a remainder of 1, right?
Yeah.
So then we're going to break our loop. And that's the end of our program. So we broke out of this loop. But realize we wanted this loop to go on for 5 times.
Yeah.
But since we used the break function, we ended abruptly. So we didn't go until 5 times, we just ended our loop. One?
So long as
When
it
you breaking?
so long as it equal 1, it's going to break.
The remainder, when it's divided by 2 equals 1, is going to break.
Alright.
That's how we specified our function to do.
Yeah.
We specified our program. So every time we get an odd number, we're just going to break the function. If the user enters only even numbers, we'll end our loop after 5 times.
Right.
But if our user happens to enter an odd number anytime between our first iteration and our last iteration, they'll break at that point. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at our continue function. So we're going to learn one thing, the while true statement. So this while true statement almost creates an infinite loop. So when we go through our loop, it's going to say while and check the condition true, and true is always true. So this loop will go on forever, more or less, unless you break it. So I'm going to say while true, then I'm going to say print, enter the letter A. I'm going to ask you to enter a variable of x, and then I'm going to say if x, if we create the continue function, we're going to go back to the top of our loop. Then I'm going to ask the user to enter A. So enter the letter A. So A, x equals A, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to skip this, because this is not true.
Continue.
So we're going to say print enter letter B. Okay, so when we enter letter B, we're going to check if x equals B, and that's true. So we're going to break this loop. So we're going to break out of
So
this
if the
loop.
person never enter A
Okay, so let's run again. So enter a letter.
C.
C. So we're going to continue. We're going to go enter letter A. We're going to tell you enter the letter A. What you enter? C. So we're going to check if, so C is not equal to A, right?
No.
So we're going to hit this continue function. And we're going to go back to the top. So the computer is going to ask you again, enter the letter A.
A.
No, don't enter A.
D.
But what?
D. And then we're going to check if D is equal to A. This is D does not equal A. So we're going to hit continue again. And we're going to go back to the top.
So if you put
You can't, but in this statement, we're using the while true and we're using this continue function. So we're going through this loop continuously until our user does what we tell him to do. So enter the letter A. So you enter the letter A. So now, if we, okay, now I'm trying to enter the letter B, but don't enter B. So enter C. So we're going to say,
if that
so if C equals B, C does not equal B, right?
yeah.
So now we're going to go through this loop again, but we're going to use this while true statement. Is true true?
No.
Yes, true is always true. So we're going to go through this loop again.
Oh, if it's true.
Yeah.
Also true.
True is always true. So we're going to go through this loop again. So the only way for us to break out of this continuous loop is for us to follow what the computer told us to do. Enter the letter A and enter B. Unless, if not, we'll be stuck in a continuous time cycle for the rest of our life. The continue statement is used to immediately go to the next iteration of a loop. It is used for both for and while loops. If the program runs the continue statement, the rest of the code in the loop is ignored for this iteration, and the loop goes to the next iteration, and so basically the loop reruns. So realize when we hit this continue function, we didn't continue. Well, we went to the next iteration.
Yeah.
We didn't go along with the rest of the code. You okay?
Yes.
In this example, the user is asked to enter the letter A and then the letter B. If they do so, they break out of the loop. If they do not enter an A first, the continue statement restarts the loop. The while true condition is used to make a never-ending loop. The only way to stop this is with a break function. Okay, so that's the end of our content.
That's all?
Yeah. And now we're going to go on to some problems.
That's all you say. How much your brain can think? Well, let's go into ADS stuff.
Okay, so ideally I want you to be able to open your slides so you could go back because we learned a lot of new syntax.
Yeah.
Now we'll have to go back and reference. So let's look at question 3. We're creating a delete all program. And just write a program which asks the user to enter several numbers. You must then store the number in a list in any order and delete each of them one at a time until the list is empty. You must print out the list after deleting each element. The element can be deleted in any order. So we're going to ask the user how many numbers you want to input. So if I say 3, the program is going to tell me enter 3 numbers, so I enter 7, 3, minus 1. Then it's going to print out the list after each element is deleted. So it prints out 7, 3, minus 1, deletes minus 1, prints out 7, 3.
The thing you using to do that, for the delete, it's deleting the last one.
Yeah.
Every time.
So now we're thinking. So now, but if it asks me how many numbers will you input and I say 5, I want to now enter 5 numbers. And then so I have to be able to enter 7, 3, minus 1, 0, 5. And then I want you to do this 5 times.
So we have to do a loop to make it keep deleting.
Yes. So exactly what we learned today.
What do you have?
So-
Functions?
What?
It was day 4.
That's function. Oh, day 4.
Yeah.
List 4 and
List
problem
four.
7.
So the rest of the day we're doing the problem set.
Yeah.
What you follow?
Okay, so for number 3, what functions or what do we think we have to use?
Dot pop.
We have to use a dot pop. Well, what else do we have to use? We have to use a dot pen. What else do we have to use?
The list.
The list, yes, we have to use list. Do we need a loop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we need one loop? How many loops do we need?
Three.
Three.
You can just
Four.
use the while
Why you need so many loops?
One,
because
because
you-
and then you
One?
Two.
You need two loops.
You
You
can-
need one loop to add the elements to the list, and you need one loop to take out the elements. One at a time.
Oh, you have to add them after you delete them.
No, you,
No,
you
but
adding them
are
and then
you-
you
are
deleting
you-
them.
Adding them after you delete them. Wait. You have to add them first,
And then you
then
delete
you
them.
delete them.
Oh, right.
So each of these you add into a list, and then you deleting them one at a time. You
So
understand?
then you can use that a dot a pen. And you add
Yes.
it.
Yeah. So go for and So I'll give you all some time to try to work on this.
Let's go.
Yes.
Okay, I am the right track. Let's move on.
So Julian still doing the same questions with us?
So what?
No, he just finished it. He's still doing it. Even if we take it times 10 the amount of time. You make it a thing, AJ? The numbers. You make them a variable, integer.
What's the name of that? That's question one.
What?
I mean, what
Oh, you
time
see
is
here,
it?
no good back.
No, in the source code.
I want you to get the 50 cent.
That's
Oh,
question 3, AJ.
that's question 1.
No.
Boy, it's
So,
everything right, boy.
when you
Are we on
you
question
still
three?
ending up with one more element in your list. And two end up with more elements.
That's question one on the first problem set. Question three, number one. That's one for us. Because the other three, so question one, two, and three. But question one, two, is like I think it's showing us
So what you're taking now is question 3.
I said that the four question. So that's day 4? Yeah, day 4 problem. So that's day 4 problems?
Yeah.
Oh, I read. Easy, we make it right for 3 kilometers. Last
Or you have just done number plus.
Wait.
Move on to number 4.
Oh, yes,
Mark
that's
the
number.
Number 4.
How is free? Do they use free? Not free? Yeah. Ask them how much. So what you want me to put in if you like inputs?
I want you to ask me how many numbers you want to input. And then I want to be able to, if I want to say 5, I have to put in 5 and input 5 numbers. If I want to input 2 numbers, I want to be able to input 2 numbers.
Everything you do, it knows what you do. Yeah, we're gonna do it for.
What's the again? So you can make a variable equal the input.
Yes.
Just variable equals input.
Yeah. Your input function. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yes, now it's up to you.
Well, what's that? I put the thing to equal.
Finish number 4.
What's wrong?
That's wrong.
What's wrong?
Except for
You finish?
No, I'm not yet
So
finished.
I recommend take out one number.
So that's wrong.
Make it take out yours.
I was trying to make it the input into a list.
No, you just create an empty list.
Like that?
Yeah, but remember what I told you we need? We need 2 for loops. We need our list. We need to use a dot pop function. We need to use a dot main.
Yeah, use the dot pop on the dot again.
Open your slides.
Really what you use? Dot pop on dot again. You put it in your own order.
Wow. That's
With the line here. It's right here.
How many numbers do you want to enter?
Yeah, how many numbers in your class? No, but you didn't point out the line.
How
Where
many
are the
numbers
numbers
do
in
you
your
use?
class? That's true. Okay, anything? Now remember, my list is not 7, 3, and minus 1. My list is whatever you input. So,
I didn't see any.
no, you have to. One, you have to ask me, the user, how many numbers will I input,
Yeah,
and then
that.
I have to
And
enter
then-
these
And
numbers.
then oh, so, alright, so okay, alright.
Right now,
And
you're
then that-
forcing it to be 7, 3, or minus 1.
Alright.
You have to ask the user what numbers they want to input.
So you just
And then after I
enter
put
three
it,
numbers.
that's going to.
So you just have to
Yes.
tell them like enter three numbers.
Again, the computer is asking us how many numbers will you want to, how many numbers will you input. When you run the program, the user is going to enter 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, whatever number you want to input. And then the computer is going to tell them enter the 7, 8, 9, or however numbers they said there. And then they're going to be able to enter 5 numbers, 10 numbers. Yeah.
Oh, I can use the if answer dot row, yeah, I can use that. And I think we could do it. So if you put that, you just go to the computer is going to send you the
I know.
input.
Remember the functions I told you in there.
Yeah,
2 for loops. To use the dot append function,
the
dot pop function, dot append function. And the empty list, that's all you need. I'll give you another 5 to 10 minutes, I'll go to it on the phone.
Yeah.
don't really need help out.
Do you have
See
to make it
what I do wrong.
Remember, see,
I don't know if that's supposed to be there.
you're not supposed to
No, the print's supposed to be out of the numbers when you enter. And then when you put the number, like when the person whichever number 3, 5, 7 or 10, the computer going to print out and the 3, 5 or 7 numbers.
How many numbers do you want to input, right? Then you're supposed to use that same number to take input. So you put the number of them.
I using it to have to solve the thing.
But yeah, you have the first line, right? But
We got different trivia.
try using a form
Try using
for
the different
the
numbers.
previous
And,
Watch out there.
I'm only
Right,
going
I
to
already have my program
last year.
down here, right? So I'll show you the numbers. So we in the three numbers.
yeah, using the thing that you just are. There is the count. Oh, you remember the range and the form? Yeah.
No, let me try to think.
Answers are some other. What?
Let me try to think.
You got to be cool. Okay, it's free.
Don't take a picture, you post it in the group. I'll walk it out.
Oh, yeah, we had 5 minutes.
Damn, son. Who did that?
That's crazy.
See that one?
Who did that?
Which one?
So if you enter that,
Yeah, in our group, yes.
Damn, son.
If you tell you after numbers, you gotta exceed. Keep them, then you're gonna speed it. It's not like you're in online.
imagine I was not going for
You gotta keep you.
no.
You gotta take massive.
Not zero.
You know, from the group. You have 4 accounts. 4. This code. No, 3 discovered. Okay, yeah. It's a big difference. Very nice to know.
No, we're not too down in there. I'm not cool with it.
That YouTube video of it, a lot of stickers. Get out a lot of stickers. I think it is on the YouTube.
Damn, Juju.
No, we don't think that.
Oh, yeah, we're looking at that though.
Unity was
These stickers, you know why that's stickers.
It's a good thing the fellas got stickers.
it was under the, it was not under the camera wasn't seeing.
Me?
Yeah.
I got that over.
You need.
Yeah. And Asian.
Okay, I don't know. Okay.
Check down.
Where do we come and check it now?
Huh?
Come and check it now. I use the 4 in.
Ready to.
No, I entered already, but it's saying when I enter, I put in how many numbers will you enter? I put 5. And then it say enter the numbers, it's not making me enter the numbers.
You know? And this here is been happening.
I was taking your old CD, saying that
The channel?
We will go and watch it. There's a channel, it's a green stickers of
Not
the
on that, guys.
on what?
On the website, look at there.
On the website.
Not on the
video is not in the link.
on YouTube,
On YouTube, the video. Look that video, yeah, that one.
The first one on the
First
website.
one,
Yeah, I'm going to the
And
days.
that full of stickers you can see. That's not pretty days for stickers.
Oh, I see where they make this sticker from. Yeah, so.
We should screenshot that one.
Oh, you want to screenshot it? That's how you make stickers.
So first, what I did, I created a variable to store the length of our list. So I want the user, I'm going to ask the user how many numbers will they input, and I'm going to store whatever value that they enter, whether it be 1, 2, or 3, inside of a variable. I'm going to call that variable len_list, which will represent the length of my list. So I want the user to dictate how long my list will be. So if he says 5, then I know I want this list to have 5 elements, right? Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
So then I'm going to create an empty list called list1. So this empty list is where we're going to be adding numbers into our list. So if I said I'm going to input the number, when I ask the question how many numbers will you input, and the user says 5.
List is a function or variable you just create.
List1 is a variable I create. So when I ask the user how many numbers will you input and he says 5, I'm going to be adding 5 numbers to this list1 at a time. So let's see how we do that. So I'm going to say for I created an element variable I. For I in range, from the range of 0 to the length of my list. So we realize if I do the range from 0 to the length of my list, that means I will get the number of elements that the user inputted. So if the user said how many numbers do you want to input and he said 5, and then I do a range from 0 to 5, how many elements are going to be in my list? 5. So from the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And that's 5 elements. So then in this for loop, I'm going to say create another variable called j, and j is equal to whatever number you input, right? So j is just equal to input.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say list1 dot append j. So I'm going to be adding that whatever number you inputted or whatever you just inputted into my list, right?
Over.
So yes, I'm going to say list1 dot append j. That's how I'm going to append a number to the list. So then I'm going to just print out the statement, here is the list after each element is deleted. And I'm going to create another for loop. And this for loop is to delete each element. So I'm going to say for I in range, the same range from 0 to the length of my list. And then I'm going to print out list1. So I'm going to print out the list1. So list1, let's say I enter the numbers 1, 2, and 3. So my list1, I'm going to print out 1, 2, and 3. Then after I print out that list, I want to pop the last number out. So I'm going to say list1.pop. So that's going to pop out 3. And then we're going to run this loop again.
So what's the range 0, comma, then this one?
So that just gives me a range from 0 to the length of my list. And the length of my list is whatever you inputted.
I think it's that hard around.
So this, you could have named this anything. You could have, this is just my variable I created, len_list.
So from the start, I have to see.
Okay, so now I'm going to minimize this. Go forth, you could try to continue doing question 3, and then when you're able to finish, go on to question 4. And question 4 is very similar. We have another 30 minutes until lunch. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Question 4 is just a question.
It's very similar. There's one thing you need to do guys. You need to run the loop one more time. The last loop that pops it out.
You can see the range function that you just the four I in range. Instead of four, you can also.
So I can just copy right? Range.
Yeah,
I mean,
That's the name of the code. Just have to
that's the
write
name of the function, yeah.
yeah, you have to run it one more
It's
time.
either,
You have to change your code slightly to allow it to run one more time.
it's either four, you can do whatever you want.
So right now if you
Oh, and then after the 0 to Julian, right? So for I in range, so then it will be 0 to that number.
Okay.
Numbers.
So we have good news and bad news.
Change the number.
what's the bad news?
It works.
Change the numbers to numbers, just make it.
But then it still gives us a range of
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's just because it ended with an empty set, so it gave that. So that's fine.
You would not just put them.
Right, so it's 0 to the number of things they want to put.
Yeah.
My brain on power juice.
And then, so then, so then I print something, what? So then I,
Then each iteration you pass on. But if you look at it, it's really complicated. Then you just do whatever you want, you have to make it.
oh, you good with what?
I still don't. Four is that.
What is this? You finished it? You finished it? Four.
So let me see 5 and 6.
Journal. Yeah.
Check trust.
For now, anyway, from 0 to number.
That's supposed to be an integer, right? It's supposed to be an integer.
Yeah.
You put that, bro. What are you looking at?
I want that. Yeah, but you have this. You have this variable as P R and then that variable P number is the one. For
That's for
we have to print out the list.
so I have to put that first, so that's the end. I have it at the end of the before the
Oh well, no, you don't. When you're pending, you don't need to print it out. Only when you're creating it.
Bro, if my phone alone, so can't anything you.
Wait,
What? Oi! Pull out.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
What do you mean? Wait.
So I finished number 5 and 6.
You finish both number 5 and 6?
Oh, I don't have nothing in there.
75.